Good morning, everybody who has joined the call already. Give us a few more minutes to allow more people to join, and then we will kick off the podcast. Thank you. Sorry, the webinar. See you just now. In the meantime, may I ask you each to tell us what school you're from in the messaging tab. You can just say hi and what the name is of the school that you're joining from. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. And my name is Eben Kian. I'm the General Manager of the Pendoring Awards, and we're very grateful for all of you for joining the Pendoring 2024 Schools webinar. The Pendoring, as you know, is an annual award program that celebrates the best of South Africa's creativity in all of our Indigenous languages. Quite simply, at Pendoring, we #Speak South African. Joining me today in presenting this webinar is our friends from Joe Public. Tsepo Tumahole, who will be joining us, is someone who's as passionate about Indigenous languages as we are. And he's the Integrated Creative Director at Joe Public. Tsepo is part of the team that's responsible for this year's campaign, but also that won last year's the overall big prize at Pendoring, which is called the prestigious Umpeta Award. And they won that with a beautiful piece of work that they created for Chicken Licken, which was called Guijo Formations. And yeah, as I said, that was the big winner last year. And that means, per definition, that they would then go on to create the next year's Pendoring campaign. We're going to play back a video, and then I'm going to ask Tsepo to take the floor and share a little bit.
Amagwejo is a uniquely South African music genre made popular by football supporters. So when we launched our Undefeated Since Forever campaign that featured Jose Mazibugo, a fictional soccer coach famous for playing unorthodox football formations, we had to capture Mzansi's passion for Amagwejo in a way that has never been done before. We created Guijo Formations, a platform that allows you to listen to a Guijo song using a football formation with 30 layers of uniquely recorded sounds.
The forwards and the high voices to stay as high as possible, high frequencies, very top heavy stuff. And then the mid stuff is all like the mid voices, mid percussions as well. And then the low stuff was all like the basses, trying to, I guess, mimic a defense of sorts and trying to put that all together.
You could, for instance, choose 4 bass, 4 tenors, and 2 sopranos for Ifo42. Or maybe 118, which is 1 bass, 1 tenor, and 8 soprano elements by simply dragging and playing.
What will happen is when you drag these player kits onto the field, that specific sound will then play.
There were endless combinations, carefully crafted and recorded to work for whichever formation the user chooses.
We had to break it down into different elements so that you would be able to choose those elements and mix and match them as you please.
We then added a sales component where consumers were encouraged to use their till slips as their Gwejo formation in order to win prizes. A first-of-its-kind platform that didn't just put chicken licking on everyone's lips, but resulted in sales too.
Which formation is this now? Which one? That one, that formation.
Chicken licking. Soul food.
Thank you. Tsepo, the floor is yours to tell the students a little bit more about the campaign that you guys did for Pendoring 2024, as well as your other insights on award-winning work from Joe Public.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Evan. I'm just gonna share my screen. I'll switch off my video. I just wanted you guys to see who's presenting. I'm just gonna share my screen, and then Tammy, you'll just let me know if it's showing. Then I'll proceed.
Sure.
Right, and let me know if it's showing full screen.
Perfect.
Oh, great. Good morning, everybody, and thank you guys for joining us. So I'm just going to talk about the campaign that we did this year for the Pendorings, and just in general how much of an influence the Pendorings have in terms of encouraging us, to continue writing in our indigenous languages, and just how important it is for us to continue doing that writing, whether it's creating, designing, etc. I'm speaking from a writer's point of view, so I usually love writing in my language because that's how I speak. That for me it's a representation of myself and pretty much of my background as well, because how I usually approach stuff, especially when it comes to writing in indigenous languages, I always try and look back to the things that I used to say or the things that people say, etc. So I'll touch on a bit of that as well and show you some work that we've done that has managed to get a couple of Pendorings. So, like I said, my name is Tsepo Dumaule. I'm the one with the blazer there and the too many patterns. I don't know. I actually I put this picture, but I guess I like it. I like this picture, and I really look back at this moment, and I think of that night that we won for this particular award. So I'll play the video of this award-winning piece that we did. But I just wanted to talk about my journey as a writer and how I approach work really. So I'm a writer, I'm a creative director, and I'm a full-time brainstormer, because I just believe that ideas are out there, ideas are everywhere, and especially from my point of view, I always enjoy listening to how people speak, and what people are saying. That kind of informs me and helps me in terms of communicating with people, because you need to know how people speak, you need to know how they are speaking and what they're saying, and for you to be able to communicate to them in a way that they will appreciate. So I should have added as well a professional eavesdropper as well, because I really like listening to people speak, because it really informs me and it informs how I approach my creativity. So I think we've probably all presented here, and I think the biggest thing, or my biggest fear, is me presenting to you guys and you guys thinking, what are you saying, or in my language. But so I usually try and make sure that I say, when I speak to people or when I present to people, I try to make sure that I say the right things, but I also keep them engaged. And I think even for brands as well, which is quite an important slide for me, like brands, when we communicate or when we put out work from a brand point of view, you always need to be careful what you're saying, and you always need to really pay much attention to what you're saying and never lose your audience. So I think when we especially do work in indigenous languages, we always look at who the target audience is, who we're talking to, and really what are we saying to them. So I think it's also something important, especially as you guys are going to be doing your work that you will enter for the Pendorings. It's always important to to think, what are you saying and how are you communicating that, so that you also keep the judges engaged, you also keep everyone engaged, So I think it's very, very important to also look back and reflect on the work that you're going to be entering. That, am I saying the right things? Is it really what I'm trying to say? Or am I in a position where I need to craft even more? So those kind of things are quite important when you approach work. So what we also realize is that when we speak to audiences, or whether you are doing work that's going to be judged, or you're doing work that the public, the general public, is going to consume, just say it the way we speak, and we'll hear you. That's just write the way people speak. Just write in your language, write the way people speak, and people will hear you, because people are always willing to listen. As much as in advertising, people think that audiences don't necessarily enjoy adverts, but I mean, I look at the type of work that we do for Chicken Licken as well. Usually when we release a film for Chicken Licken, it's about 2 minutes long, and people watch it. We get millions of views on YouTube, simply because people are engaged. And the way we are speaking to audiences, it means that we understand the audience we are speaking to, and they are willing to listen, regardless of what the duration rather of the content. So I think it's also quite key that you need to say it the way people speak, and the judges will also hear you when we're looking at the work. So, and I think it goes without saying, right? We need more people who speak like you, whatever your language is, whether you speak isiZulu, Sesotho, Afrikaans, etc. We need people who speak like you, because we're communicating to people who speak like us. So it's very, very important for us, when we approach work, or as we're thinking of ideas, do not neglect, indigenous languages, because there is just something beautiful around being communicated in the way you speak. I think indigenous languages, when we are relaxed and we are sitting with friends or family, we tend to not always resort to indigenous languages, because it's just a sense of home, or a feeling that you get when you get spoken to in your language. It feels like you are being respected. It feels like the person sees you, etc. So we really, really need, and I can't encourage this more, but we really, really need more indigenous languages. We need you guys to keep on doing work in indigenous languages, for us to be able to continue speaking to audiences in a way that they will appreciate. So just getting into the campaign for this year, I'll play the video first, and then I'll just unpack a bit about it and how we got to this point.
Some things are just best said in your language. I mean, who would get it if you said, it takes a lever to say I'm sorry, when you could just say, "Kuthatha isibindi ukupholisa." Or if you said, "Your GPS threw you away last night," instead of, "Hey, GPS yaka, intahlile mabana usiku." Or worse, if you said, "Ooh, your head has been holding you," when pila pila umutsuri ke hlooho. Wabo, just rather say it in your language, especially at the Pendoring Awards 2024. So, enter your work before the 30th of September.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's really for me, it's a no-brainer that some things are better said in our languages, and it always comes through. So I think our approach to this was just tapping into the insight that when people speak, sometimes things get lost in translation. So why translate the things? Rather keep it in the language that that people speak, or say it the way it's supposed to be said. So I think it's just an example of how different our languages are, but also how much fun you can have, writing in your vernacular languages. And I think for me, what was also key here is to highlight that, yes, it's all good and well that, I'm even presenting in English right now. We all communicate in English, but there is still room for our languages, and there are certain things that you can't say in English, but you can only say in your vernacular. And I think that for us, and especially when we're judging, those kind of insights and that level of crafting and getting into the art of the language for us is quite important. When you can only get it because it's written in vernac, you can't get it if you were to translate it into English. That's the mark of a really, really great campaign. And for us, when we when we are ideating, you know, and in terms of like speaking to audiences in vernacular, it's always important to get those little nuggets, those things that can only be communicated in vernac, and you'll see the person on the receiving end really enjoys it because it does, which um I'm getting a bit of feedback. Okay, it's gone now. So then I'm gonna show you guys one project that I was referring to earlier when I said I'll show you guys a video of that particular night when we won Pendoring. So I'm gonna play this radio. We did this a couple of years ago, maybe it's about 4 years ago. But for us, we did it for one of our clients that we used to have back then, which is Jet. So when we were writing this, you know, we thought like maybe we should have done it in English, but I think you will hear how there are certain things, we did it in isiZulu, and there are certain things that, you know, you can only, the jokes can only be funny when they're written in a particular language. So for me, I just put in this piece of work just to show you guys that any little thing, any little insight can become, you know, great storytelling. And when you tell that story in your indigenous language, it becomes even 10 times better.
Sakusiwabona la ngaphandle uzathola ngembala eminingi ehlukile namaphethini ahlukahlukene kodwa ngeke uyibone empilweni ama-happy socks, ama-secret socks ngoba ama-secret socks awahlangani iy'ndaba zobuhappy likhona elilodwa i-secret socks elike lahlotshiswa mhlawumbe uthole selinopopayi othandayo uke wezwaphi nje umuntu enqoma i-secret socks egqaliselihle buka lihambisana naleli ihembe lamantaliyane kahle kanjani akukaze kwenzeka ngoba ubuhappy into ezivezayo kodwa i-secret socks lifihlwa njengehanda enembobo noma sekuthiwa nali lihappy angeke kwazi muntu ngoba i-secret nawe ubungeke uthanda ukuphila njengemfihlo impilo yakho yonke sengathi ngumakhwapheni ophuma lapho amaqondane engekho khona nokuthi umuntu aphosa isithombe sakho sibize ne-MCM kodwa afihla ubuso bakho ngale emoji khipha ulimi empeleni i-secret socks liyazifanela njengefinyile akufanele livele emehlweni abantu yiyo le ndlela ama-secret socks azizwa ngakhona kodwa uyazi ukuthi yini futhi indlela azizwa ngayo azizwa enethezekile ezinyaweni zakho vakashela kwajet namhlanje thole konke okudingayo amanani yaphansi.
So yeah, this was a campaign of 3 ads. So there was one where we wrote around the product was a handkerchief, and then it was bras, and then this was the secret socks. You know, I mean, it still baffles me how we managed to write such a long ad about just like a secret sock, and it still feels like to this day it really was a great call for us to keep it in vernacular, and I think the results are there. You know, this also picked up a Pendoring goal, so I think it's really for me it's quite important for you to identify those ideas that can only work in indigenous languages and just run with it and make sure you craft it as much as you can. So the next video I was going to play is the one that won Umpeta, but I'm not going to play it because we've seen it. The reason I also kept it in here, I just wanted to stress the point that it's not, you know, you can do digital stuff in vernacular. You know, it's not just limited to the traditional, I put that in inverted commas, like way of advertising. There's a lot of opportunity for us to really start being innovative and really seeing opportunities outside of the normal stuff that we are used to doing, but also not saying that we should always try to be innovative for the sake of it. But I think it's quite key for us to always find those opportunities beyond the traditional stuff. So then in closing, I think, you know, it's just say it in your language. It's always better. And because you know your language, you know how you speak, so the next person will receive it from an honest place, because you know it's you, it's how you speak, it's how you present the work, and how we receive it as well. You know, we will actually see the merit in awarding stuff that really, you know, feels honest, feels like, you know, it's actually nuanced and it's done in a beautiful way. So I think it's quite important to stress again that, you know, just say it in your language. It's always better. And yeah, with all of that being said, thank you for your time and say it the way you speak it. Thanks.
Paul, thank you so much for that contribution. And so there will be a Q&A session at the end, so please jot your thoughts down in the message tab, and we will help answer those towards the end of this. I'm sure you're all itching to create some exceptional work this year for the Pendoring, and we will hope you enter those. Just to remind you that the overall student winner receives a prize of 10,000 Rand. So there's some hard cash involved here as well. I'm going to give you a quick idea of the categories into which you can enter your work. These are the main categories that are available to students. Then they cover the main touch points you will cover in your courses, and importantly, they offer a lot of room for your unique creativity and flexibility. We acknowledge that the media landscape is forever changing, and especially in the last decade, with advertising budgets moving to things like branded content or into new forms of digital media. These categories are all meant to be open enough for you to be able to enter unique pieces of work. But in broadly, we've got the student categories, which is student, radio, and audio. So whether something is made for radio or for the internet or for any other virtual forms of media, you can enter it there. And then we've got the student print communication category. So whether it's for newspaper, whether it's a design piece or a publication or a book, you'll see that there's all these subcategories there. I'm not going to read through all of them, but what you'll see on our website is that there is a PDF that you can download that has got all these categories in there, as well as the subcategories. And if you've got any questions about there, you're welcome to put it to us at hello@Pendoring. But you can see here in the print communication, we've got tactical use of print, which includes non-traditional and special use of newspapers, for example, complete features or inserts, use of margins, page numbers, content within a publication, catalogs, wrap bands, pop-up, 3D, etc. A lot of these things will in the near future become quite defunct because we won't see printed newspapers any longer. And even in those things, there's something to play with, and how print media is changing to digital media all the time, or evolving. We've got the digital interactive communications sector, which is this category, which is all the forms of digital media, display advertising. So it can be on a third-party platform where you've got a banner. It can include websites or microsites, and then we continue to the digital interactive communication, which includes work done for social media, for digital applications, games, and interactive tools, and mobile media. What you'll see is we're also going to be announcing in the near future a new challenge that we're launching this year around digital communication, because we acknowledge that digital communication has got so much reach possibilities, especially in a country like South Africa. We've got massive discrepancy in income. Everybody can access digital media if you find a Wi-Fi spot. So it may be that digital media is the thing that really creates a stimulus for the growth of indigenous languages. Then we've got the design categories, where logos, identity programs, general design, and package design can be entered. Again, if you have any question about which category to enter into, drop us a mail and we will answer you happily there. We've got publication design, so it's either a single element, which is a magazine insert, a book cover, jacket design, magazine cover, publication wrap, or the entire publication, if you do an entire book or an entire catalog that you want to enter. And then there's again design for digital, which recognizes the important role that design has in digital media. Any digital platform can be entered here. The focus is on static or limited animation design. Examples include website, mobile sites and apps, publication design, social media posts, and infographics. If your work is more animated, you'll see there's separate categories for that, which is either in motion graphic design or in the category TV, cinema, commercials, and online advertising. So the category is for paid media, film, and it is, you'll see there's quite a bit of freedom. Every kind of, if you think of a media that's not, a format that's not covered here, let us know so that we can specify it next year. But the idea, especially in the student category, is for experimental media. So we want to make sure that there is a gap or niche for you to enter any work that you do. Out of home, or it includes the outdoor media, in-store, transit, and air. And just, I mean, for people studying today, out of home is also becoming quite a vague descriptor, because in the old days, we categorized these things very strongly where it was different kind of advertising. But today, anything kind of goes. So do let us know what your intended entry is, and if it doesn't fit in here, we can help you to fit it in there. Ambient would be things like all free format, non-traditional forms of media, including use of public spaces, handouts and giveaways, kiosks, displays, and never before used media. And then an integrated campaign is typically where you've got 3 or more different components that work together. And just a heads up here to share with your lecturers, or if you're a lecturer yourself, we've seen in the past that work has a better chance of being seen when you enter it first as separate elements and then again as an integrated campaign. It's a great way of telling a story about a specific entry, and the adjudicators do seem to pick up on those best. So if you've got a great integrated campaign, make sure you enter it as individual pieces and then again as a integrated campaign as well. Then the student, print design, and out-of-home craft. So craft categories are slightly different. It's like if there's a beautiful piece of illustration and I think you also want to enter it into the craft categories. Craft, you can't actually win overall, but you can win a certificate for these categories. So it's specifically for something like typography, for photography, for illustration, writing, and art direction. And maybe at this point, it's just a good idea to remind you again that there's a golden rule in Pendoring that all work must be at least 70% in an indigenous language or a combination of indigenous languages. We don't disqualify work if it's in a non-official indigenous language. So, for instance, you guys watch DSTV, you would have noticed there's the series like about Queen Mujaji, the Rain Queen. That is one of the Balobedu is one of the examples of a language which is recognized as indigenous in South Africa, but it's not one of the official languages. But we still accept those in. You just need to always make sure that we've got an English translation, because our adjudicators speak all the indigenous languages, but not each one of them speak all the indigenous languages necessarily. So they help each other to understand the cultural nuance, but we do require you to give us an English translation for all your work. Even if it's an Afrikaans that you may think everybody must understand, please supply us with an English translation of your work, either embedded in the work or as a separate file. So please make sure that you do that. And Karen Pretorius, thank you so much for that question. Yes, the actual rationale is in English. So at Pendoring, we talk about the lingua franca, so the language that we communicate with each other, that is English for practical purposes, but at the same time, we celebrate indigenous languages. So anything that's got to do with you want to talk to all the adjudicators and explain your work to them in your rationale, that must always be in English. All your audio work must have subtitles in English, but sure that you explain it in English to the adjudicators. But if your work is all English, the actual content of your work, then it's going to be disqualified in Pendoring. It must be at least 70% in indigenous language or indigenous languages. So combinations are allowed. We know that people don't speak Standaard Afrikaans or Standaard Zulu or any of these like pure languages. We like to mix things in South Africa, so you are encouraged to enter things in a way that people speak. Then we can move on maybe to the from the craft awards. That gives you a quick overview of all the various categories. If you have any questions, please do come back to us with those. I quickly want to just go back to the slide, if you don't mind, Tam, to show you all the contact details. So if you, to just talk to our sponsors for a moment, we would like to thank the people who make Pendoring possible, which include Media24, it includes Santam, Caxton, UNESCO, the Arte Café, SABC Radio, the Dagbreek Trust, Mark Lives, the Indigenous Language Action Forum, the Pan-South African Language Board, Biz Community, Newsclip, University of Johannesburg, Faculty of Humanities, Lobingula Advertising, and Brainstorm Brand Architects. And then, of course, thank you again to Joe Public, who make our campaign for 2024 possible. We're going to show you a little bit more work just to inspire you. Specifically, we want to show you, I think, the overall winner from last year, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to show, we're first showing you another piece of work that won in the professional category, and this one is from Nissan, created by TBWA Hunter Scorers. It was the overall winner in 2021. This is a great example of digital work, and it's interesting to see how the last few years, our overall winners are often digital pieces. So we saw the Guijo formations that Joe Public created, and here's another exciting version of work that won for Hunter Scorers in 2021, which was Nissan Shui. Let's have a look at that video.
Everybody loves Waze, the navigation app that translates data from your mobile device into real-time reports so you can avoid traffic, potholes, and the police. You can use Waze in 98 languages, including Arabic, Mandarin, and even a boy band.
Have a pleasant drive.
But we still can't use it in our most widely spoken language, isiZulu. Waze uses English, which is only number 6, and Afrikaans, only number 3. So we created by Nissan, the first voice assist that warns you like only a Zulu can. When a Zulu gives you a warning,
We call it war.
you listen. The language uses phonetic sound so you can hear the danger inside every word.
A piece of wood.
Sounds like a break-in. Sounds like a car rolling. Sounds like bad weather. We hacked the personal voice recorder feature on Waze to upload 41 key Zulu commands to help our users avoid danger without the need for translation.
Jika kwesokudla. Jika kwesokunxele. Asishone khona. Uzofahla.
This allowed us to create a shareable link accessed via the Waze app, as well as content for a nationwide integrated campaign. The cost to upload a new voice on Waze is $75,000. We did it for less than 5. Any app can give out directions. Only one navigates danger in a language you truly understand.
So one of the things that was really clever about this entry was the fact that Underscore somehow hacked Waze. They didn't pay for the official version of it, but on behalf of their client, they spent the money on production and launched. You had to use a QR code to get there, but they launched an official version or a non-official version of isiZulu Waze, which is hugely entertaining to use. And it uses beautiful sound effects to talk about all the various road conditions in South Africa, like potholes and roads without lines and all these kinds of things. So they turned quite a crisis into a very engaging way of driving using Indigenous language. This was the overall student winner last year, a beautiful piece of interactive, as in folded in paper. And she took Duncan Schroeder from Red and Yellow Creative Academy in Cape Town, created this slice of milk tart packaging. So it's takeaway packaging that when you unfold it, it looks like a blue and white Delft plate. And the adjudicators really enjoyed that. And it was for Babylon's Touren, which if you come to this year's Pendoring Award, you will enjoy some delicacies from Babylon's Touren with us. They've come on board as a partner to this year's Pendoring Award. So make sure that you look out for when we start selling the tickets for that. And that's going to be a beautiful party at the UJ Arts Centre again this year. And then maybe just to give you one more example, Janneke van Zyl from the Stellenbosch Academy of Design and Photography was the 2022 student overall winner, with this piece of work that really spoke again to her use of Afrikaans in a game.
Woordheidvlerke is a unique 2D platformer game. The game draws inspiration from a poem by Lisa Beekman and follows a character through a world where words have wings. In the game, the character needs to keep the good words and dodge the bad ones. A lot of games today include violence and overly sexualized characters. And although the space for educational games continue to grow, there are very few games that teach emotional intelligence, and none in Afrikaans. This game is designed for Afrikaans-speaking gamers, especially young children and teenagers. The aim is to create a wholesome experience that can teach children the power of words. What are the words that hurt us, and what are the ones that make us stronger? It's a meaning-driven game. The design elements were thoughtfully created, hand-stitched onto paper before being scanned in and reworked to build the character and elements. The character is designed to portray vulnerability, showing the effect of words on our broken self-esteems. Some of the stitches are coming apart to communicate this. The simplicity of the game is to encourage a mindful playing experience where the player can step away from their screen, feeling inspired. The environment is built of parts of words, colorful blocks, and parts of the poem decorating the background. The obstacles are lips that open to reveal harsh words and set the character back to start over. It's the words we tell others, and also ourselves. Good words act as rewards, keeping count and making the character stronger. It's to encourage the player to hold on to good words, allowing them to heal. Woord uit Vlerke is a game of healing. The hope is that it will encourage the player to slow down, to look at words and assess their meaning. It's a game that everyone should play, young or old, to be reminded of the power of words. Words can break, or words can build. Choose them wisely.
So that entry won both in the craft category for the illustration that she created. She hand stitched everything.
Woord uit Vlerke is a unique 2D platformer game.
Let's stop that. We don't need to watch the whole thing again. Thank you so much. So just overall entries closed 30th of September 2024. Please visit pendoring.co.za for more information. Have a look at all of the social media platforms. We're on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, on LinkedIn, and you can communicate with there. Sonia, thank you for that. If you can, let us know what the issue is. We will quickly have that fixed up. Sorry about that. We have quite a large amount of traffic to the site at the moment, so it does fall over every now and then, but our team will get that up in no time. If there's anything that you'd like to communicate with us on in the meantime, please email us at hello@pendoring.co.za. If there's any other questions, please let us know, and we would love to see all of your entries this year. The award ceremony is going to be towards the end of November this year at the UJ Arts Center. We need to get all of your entries in by the 30th of September, so please start good. Don't wait for the very last day to enter all of your stuff. Start now. And if there's any questions you have, please feel free to email us. A question we often get from the students is, can a student independently enter? You're welcome to enter independently. Traditionally, it's always been your school that enters it, but if you feel that your lecturer's reading of your work is not fair and you want to be entered, you're welcome to enter yourself as well. So both schools and individuals can enter as long as you are currently studying at a university or a college or technikon in South Africa. Any other questions, fire away. Otherwise, we're going to start closing the session. And I want to thank all of our sponsors again. I want to thank Seppo Tumahole for joining us and presenting to you. And thank you to all the schools for always answering our call to let your students join these sessions. If anybody needs to pass the session on to their students, you're welcome to also reach out to us. We will post a recording of the session online. And I think with that, we've come to the end of our session, and I hope you all a very good week and great inspiration to enter the Pendoring Awards. So thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing your entries by the end of this month. Thank you very much.